Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 569. I am your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Matt, this week we're talking Cleopatra Fortune. Primarily for the Sega Saturn, but there's other versions we'll discuss in brief. Of course, we will review and rank Cleopatra Fortune on the list. And the list, for those of you new to the Free Cheese podcast, is available at thefreecheese.com/the list, and it's where over the last 3 seasons worth of podcasts we have been ranking video games. Just recently we crossed our 100th video game ranked on the list. Cleopatra will join Cleopatra's Fortune / Cleopatra Fortune will join the ranks very soon, within the next hour. Count on it. But first, Matt, what historical figure deserves their own video game?
That was a lot of dead air as I was shaking my head. Sorry about that. I forgot.
It's good. Audio. No, you're really thinking. Right?
So, I don't think he's considered a historical figure yet. However, when the time comes, one, John Carmack.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think he's definitely an important part of history, but yeah, I guess you need to be dead for a couple hundred years before you're, like, remembered as, a true, something.
Now, I know John Carmack, leader of a nation, not a great conqueror, or, something along that. But in terms of technological advancement,
yeah, I
think, he's more so hiding in the shadows. I don't think he gets talked about enough.
Fair enough, man. I'm with you. He's done a lot. He's had an incredible career, and he's still going. My answer's less modern, but quite predictable, in Edgar Allan Poe, who I still think should be added to the roster of Mortal Kombat. And I think we could do some interesting things with Poe in a video game. If you made a puzzle game out of Poe, you could have several modes based on the different stories. You could have a whole, what was it, Mask of the Red Death themed thing where each level of difficulty changes in color. You could go very, very well. Of course, you'll have hearts beating through floorboards and ravens cawing about, if you will.
I don't want to sink our ship here in a way or whatever, but I believe there's
something.
The Dark Eye, I think is what it's called. I think this is the right one.
Eye.
It's one of them, their point and click adventure games, inspired by I think 4 of his short stories. I think that's the name of it.
I'm seeing
something exists that's based off his writings. It's an adventure game or whatever. It's kind of not too far removed from what we played. What was the point and click adventure game based off the 4?
I have no mouth and I must scream.
Yes, it's kind of I think similar to that. But I think they're all their own individual. Like I don't know if the stories overlap in some way or not.
Dude, this looks sick. The Dark Eye, that's what you're thinking of?
I think that's the one, yes. I think that's the one.
All right, well, I have a...
Oh, yeah, because it has that weird art style to it. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, I need to have a conversation with our good friend Benjamin Barris as to why him and I have not... There's no way he doesn't know about this, and there's a big problem with the fact that he's never brought it to my attention. Or he has, and I've completely blacked it out. But this is sick. This is very sick. Stay tuned for future. All right, I'm not even quitting Safari. That's just staying right there. I also found. Oh, it's from Big Fish Games, so it's
God.
Yeah. There's a collection on Steam with mostly negative reviews. I'll leave it at that. Oh, except for Genki Cole, who recommends it. 3.5 hours on record. Oh, barely recommended. Sorry. They don't... You gotta read, folks. Anyway, we're not here for Edgar Allan Poe games. Not yet, at least.
I was gonna say not yet, according to how this conversation just went.
I know. I need to make my note larger so I'm not looking at these pictures in the background and getting distracted. We're here to talk about Cleopatra Fortune, developed by Natsume, published by Taito, released in the arcade, but we're focusing today on the Sega Saturn version. There were also later versions on PlayStation and Dreamcast. It was first released in the arcade September 1996, but the version we're talking about on Saturn was February 14th. That's right, Valentine's Day 1997. Matt, we're going to do something weird for the back of the box this week because we are playing the Saturn version. I want to pull from that as much as I can, but it is in Japanese. So here's what we've got generally.
I would say that's good foreshadowing.
Aim to be a chain master. 1P play and 2P play. Can you save the kingdom? Mystery mode. New appearance. Group mysterious big chains. And then there's a little speech bubble where Patricone is saying, the very popular puzzle game Cleopatra Fortune is finally here. And I agree. I did, however, grab the PlayStation release, which was the only version that got released in English, which this one's insane because it has a ZeniMax logo on the back of it. I do know that this one is less regarded. I don't think it ported very well to the PlayStation. I've played a bit of it. It's fine. But I think the hardcore Patra heads out there, they prefer the arcade experience or even the Dreamcast experience. Anyway, the back of the PlayStation US box says Cleopatra's Fortune. They added the apostrophe S there. Fun fit for a queen. Strategically place jewels and artifacts in order to remove layers of ancient stone. Think fast and move quickly to unlock the riches of Cleopatra's Fortune. Fun for all ages. One player. They did a weird thing in Cleopatra's Fortune on PlayStation where they added kind of a time attack mode, but removed some of the head-to-head stuff. So I don't know. Anyway, we're playing the Saturn version. I should say that we didn't specifically play the Saturn version as much as we played the City Connection S Tribute version that's been released on modern platforms. You can pick this up on PlayStation, Steam, Switch, and Xbox. It's on all modern platforms, released in 2022 for those platforms. For I think $14.99, it's pretty regularly on sale, as most of those are. And it is it's a Saturn emulator. It's the game wrapped in a Saturn emulator and then made for modern consoles. So you are playing the original ROM, essentially, which gets into a bit of what Matt pointed out earlier, where there are elements of this that are not translated from the original language. We'll get into that a little bit more as we break down some of the modes. But let's start with Matt. What is Cleopatra Fortune? How would you describe Cleopatra Fortune?
It's a puzzle game, of course, with different blocks, but the idea is to use, I guess, the stone. Again, there's different blocks, but like there's stone blocks, and you want to trap in the special blocks in some kind of closed stone structure, whether that be a perfect square or a rectangle, or some kind of weird mess that you may make on your board that somehow it closes in some weird way that you had no idea was even possible 3 turns prior, or 3 drops prior. That's without going, that's TLDR version, I think.
I think so. Yeah, it's it's a different type of puzzle game. At first glance, it feels like it's a falling block thing, so it feels like it's Tetris-esque. But the rules are a little bit a little bit different. Where did you first discover Cleopatra Fortune?
When you revealed your list last year.
Never had you heard of Cleopatra Fortune before?
No.
I don't know where I even heard of it. It's definitely come up on some forums I hang out on. I've seen it. I think it was probably just, I think this was like 2019 maybe, when we, on the podcast, I had like a February of Saturn. I don't remember what I did or why, but I was like really diving into some Sega Saturn stuff. And I started looking at the lists of like, what are people's recommendations for...
was it because the core came out, or it was 1.0 or something?
This was way even before that. This was just this was software emulation stuff. Not even the Mister. No, it was a long, long time ago. And I remember just like poking around and then seeing, you get a lot of typical recommendations for Saturn, like all of the first party stuff that Sega put out, people always love. There's
Knights.
Knights, of course. There's some things where people are like, you should check this game out, or this is a weird version that came out on Saturn. There's always that stuff. But then like, there's this list of these like handful of games that people are like, oh no, play Cleopatra Fortune. And yeah, I don't know. And then I started checking it out, playing it here and there. I've tried the PlayStation version as well as the Saturn version. And then it became one of those City Connection releases a couple years back. And every Thursday, if you're not aware, and if this is something of interest to you, you should check it out. But Retronauts.com has a write-up just chronicling each week's retro re-releases. It's very, very well thought out, well put together. The writer GSK puts together not only a list of what's coming out, but gives a lot of great context for why this release is important, why you should care about this release, and, just interesting facts around it generally. So it's pretty cool, just weekly roundup of things. And that was one where, it was like, hey, Cleopatra Fortune's coming out on modern consoles. It's like, what is such a weird, to your point, no one's heard of this game, right? Sure, in Japan, it was probably, there were arcade cabinets. It was ported to multiple home consoles, but in America, it had an obscure PS1 release, and that's it. It's a strange one to put out there, but alas, here it is. Which begs the question, why did we add it to the list this year? And for me, as the nominator of it, it was really just for that. It's a puzzle game unlike anything I've ever played. I think it has an interesting sense of style. I think that I never quite understood the gameplay to its fullest in all of the time I've spent with it. So I thought if I add it to the list, that might force me to really dive in and learn it. So I wanted to see it a bit more. And I think too, I don't think that we always try and go for, and I try not to do this as a look at this weird thing I know, but sometimes it's cool to highlight a game that just no one has heard of, because you get to experience things that you otherwise wouldn't. And I think about the way we've put together the list, generally speaking, right? But we've got some weird stuff on here. Even the stuff that's from known franchises or things that you would expect to see pop up. Some of the choices we've added are just weird. I'm failing to think of some of them right now, but I don't know. We've got
Gitsuru Man.
We've got the Game Boy Resident Evil game. We've got the Game Boy Metal Gear Solid game. You know what I mean? We've got some. Of course, we got Halo Fireteam Raven. There's some that we have that have been a bit more notorious, like a Daikatana. But at the same time, how many people are critically looking at Daikatana and ranking it and reviewing it versus playing it because it's kind of sort of a meme or something that they, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm always proud of the list that we have, generally speaking, but I'm also always happy when we can introduce stuff that's like a little bit less celebrated and deserves to be celebrated. Because I do think in the case of, I think everything but Blinks, everything we've put on has deserved to be celebrated. Yeah, let's go with that. Everything, it's 100 games for you. You're struggling to disagree, I know.
We have one too high on here, I think.
Which one?
Lifeline.
Where's Lifeline? Nah, dude, Lifeline's good. Lifeline's ambitious. It's too low. Actually,
I don't know.
The list is a fun mess. Stay tuned for the end of the episode. If this is your first time being exposed to the list, go check it out, thefreecheese.com/the-list. See all the mistakes we've made and prepare yourselves for another one. How would you... Well, we kind of described the gameplay in Cleopatra Fortune. Do we want to go another layer down? Or do you want to
I guess describe the blocks, right? So, you get stone blocks. That's kind of like your main... It's your main kind of foundation block. That's the key block in all this. I think. I don't know if I'm using a right word there, but they're all important. But the stone block is the one that is going to kind of clear your board or not clear your board, or or whatever you're trying to do here. Then what you got? Kind of trying to go to order of introduction. So the jewel would be next. Then is it the coffins and then the mummies?
It is jewel, coffin, mummy. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And the mummies have 2 sizes.
Yeah, I guess I should say the stones have 2 sizes too. It's either 2x1 or 1x1. Coffins are always 2x1. Jewels are always 1x1, and then of course your mummies, as you just said, either 2x1 or 1x1. Yeah. Yeah, they can, of course, any of them you can turn, but then it gets weird, and this is where I think the game gets hard. It's when they start pairing like a 2x1 coffin on a 2x1 stone, and they're like connected, and the way the mechanic is like of having to cover the entire area in a stone to get rid of everything in the middle, with that kind of sequencing, it gets tricky. I'm gonna throw it out there. I am not very good at this game. I don't even think I'm competent. I'm bad. I am bad at this game.
So you never felt like you got a good rhythm or a strategy to approach?
Nope. Nope. As I said earlier, there's some clears where I never imagined I was able to clear something 3 turns from then, but it happened, and I would kind of maybe keep the game going for another 7 drops.
I think I got to a point where I understand it, but I still don't think I'm optimizing things the best way. To me, like, I know the next level is to start figuring out how to stack combos, but I'm not there yet mentally. I don't know that I ever will be. But what I did start getting good at is figuring out how to start layering things to best get full clears, perfects, as many times as possible. And rather than play it like other games where, like, certain games, especially a Tetris, I want to build and knock down, this I am targeting the knockdown as quickly as possible. Which is a different strategy than I'm used to. There's sometimes where I will improvise a little bit and I'm like, oh, you know what? If I stack these things like this, I can queue up a chain, or I can do some things like that. But it's very rare that I fully see those things for what they are. I just have not trained my brain in that way. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think I fully ever got there. And I don't know, maybe one day. But I also, there's I feel like I still don't know Tetris the way that you're supposed to know Tetris. I feel like I don't know, like, I don't know, columns the way, like Puyo Puyo, all those things. Like, I'm competent, but never confident. And I can even be good at it, but I don't know that I'm necessarily ever, like, great or excellent, or that I would hold my own. Tetris is probably the most confident I feel in a puzzle game, but even that, when you get into like some expert level play, like some of the more crazy modes they've added to Tetris Effect are really, really challenging. Yeah, I think you nailed everything in terms of like what each block does, how to stack them together. There's a couple caveats where, like, if you have treasure, we'll just call them the treasure pieces and the stone pieces, but if you have the treasure pieces aligned so that one of them is touching, or I'm sorry, if you have all of them touching from left to right, if you can complete a row with treasure, they will clear, but you can't mix and match treasure and stones to clear. If you're going to do that, you need to basically trap in, like, you don't need to fill a row with treasure, but you do need to trap it in or encase it in a tomb, so to speak, of stone. So, and to your point of like what you're given as your drops to start putting them down, like, it's not always the most straightforward, like, I don't know, like sometimes you'll get one of those 1x2 treasure pieces alongside a single stone, or even a do they ever do the 1x2 stone? Either way, but like they'll put them in weird configurations where it's more L-shaped, and it's not like Tetris where you can fit an L shape into an L shape hole and there it is, you're done. Like, you're only trying to fit the corner of that L shape into one spot, and you've just got to do something with the other long part. Like, it's messy in that kind of way, which I think that's what I like about Cleopatra Fortune, is that it is kind of messy. Like, Tetris is almost like a perfect game. Well, I think it probably is a perfect game, but that's a discussion for another day. But in terms of like, every piece does technically have a way to fit into the board cleanly, right? Like, same thing when you're playing Puyo Puyo or Super Puzzle Fighter, like, everything comes in these very neat, right? Like, you could, with enough time and patience and the right luck in the drops, you could always kind of perfectly make these squares. And if you had to clear things out to make the perfect squares, you could, or things like that. But Cleopatra Fortune, like, it's just a messy game. It never looks good on the board. But I like that in a way, because it always, I think once you accept that, then you accept your own faults and failures within playing it. Like, it pulls a bit of the pressure off. I got to a point where I had the most fun setting it to easy in arcade mode, because there's easy, medium, and hard. And that sets you at different levels, which dictates speed, which dictates drops, but it also gives you a different starting score and multiplier and all that stuff. I guess not multiplier. That only happens with combos, but different starting score. I would start it easy and just go for perfects. A perfect will give you 5,000 points times the current level that you're at. So what's really great is, like, by the time you get up into like level 40 and you're getting perfect clears, because it's almost like you basically, like, what it takes in terms of the drops you get to amount to a perfect clear roughly will, like, get you up one level. So if you're kind of getting a clear as soon as you can each time, you're kind of always getting 5,000 points times your current level. By the time you get to like the 40s, the 50s, you're getting 5,000 times that each time. So it stacks your score pretty high, and you can go from these sort of, like menial score upgrades to big, huge 200 grand, 500 grand, whatever jumps. That kind of, to me, I don't know. I think we kind of hit on what makes it different from other puzzle games, but is there anything else you would say makes this stand out as a
one thing, one mechanic about this game, though? Your pieces are always the same in order. That's so, like, if you play enough, you can set a strategy knowing what is coming all the time. So I think that kind of randomness, like, talked last week about Super Puzzle Fighter 2, and like, the whole experience is random, but the only thing that makes it okay is both boards get the same thing in the same order.
Yeah.
This is just same order all the time. Whether you do new game today or 5 days from now, it's going to be the exact same drops.
At that level.
Yeah.
Like, if you start at level 20, you'll have different drops than you did starting at 1 or 50. But yeah, you're right. And you generally, I mean, difficult time learning the game?
I would think so. I think it's one of those, I think Tetris is like straightforward. You kind of, even if you accidentally kind of stumble into it, it happens once, you kind of got it. Puzzle Fighter, I think the main thing there is knowing it is like you're not just trying to stay alive, you're attacking, and once you kind of grasp that, I think it's there. But this, it's like you grasp what's happening. I think you can grab your head around what's going on pretty quick if you look at the kind of, in the version we had like a little instruction booklet you could look at digitally. But like, even I think if you know you have to encase things in, I think it's an easier time to wrap your head around it. But like, if you're going in blind without instructions, it'd be a little bit of a mess. And then double that with like the fact that, like, I think the game's just hard. The drop speeds get fast quickly, and it gets very hard to maneuver.
But they do. And I found that when it piles up, it's really difficult to get out of that. Where like Tetris, you can have some lucky saves and you can kind of sneak by, but with what you have to do in this game to specifically enclose the treasure, like, one wrong move and there's really no recovery. It's really, really tough to save yourself.
And it doesn't even do that thing where like Tetris lets you kind of like, if it lands, you still have like that half second to keep kind of flipping. Eventually the game's gonna be like, all right, you're done, stop. But you kind of have that time. Super Puzzle actually did kind of like the same thing, but here it's like, it lands, it's kind of done.
Yeah. Did you find a strategy for this game? Was there something that worked well for you?
No. I mean, I would say I wouldn't say I had like all these different approaches to it. None of them worked. I think at the end of the time, I just needed more time with the game per se. But I started just like focusing on like a clear at a time, no matter how bad the board above it got. Kind of going back to what you said about keeping a clean board in this game, I don't think it's possible. So I would just kind of work on like the thing that I could immediately kind of take care of in a drop or two. And then letting everything above me, if I could keep it organized, great. But I again, it's one of those things where I think the blocks are coming too quick, and you can't see past the next one. Yeah. So it was kind of hard to plan that much ahead, unless again you spend enough time with it and you memorize the drops. So I would just kind of, the next thing I could take care of immediately, that was my target, and then kind of like, all right, got that down. What's next? What's like the next thing here, and kind of regroup and re-strategize. But what I found was happening there in that strategy was I was leaving these huge gaps, and these stones would not drop, and like the bottom of my board would be like a third of the way up, and it would be tough to kind of come back from that in a way. And then when I conquered that, I found like my new bottom was still halfway up despite getting through that, and it just snowballed, and I would get out. I did like the fact you got lives though in this game. You can kind of keep going.
Yeah, you can
at
keep
like
rolling,
a soft reset.
Yeah, I think we did our similars were our strategies were not too dissimilar. Like for me, I think I got to a point where I'd approach each. I don't know. My goal right now is fit these stones across the board so that I can clear the stones. And if there's gems beneath them, hooray, right? Like, I'd try and get treasure and things below the stones as much as possible so that I was getting extra points. But really, it was all about how do I just take these, how do I build a stone wall and clear it? Was kind of where I kept getting to. And like, I never like having, in Tetris, I never like having a clear board. In last week's Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, like I didn't like having a clear board because you always want to have something to throw at your opponent in that especially. But in this, it was just like, okay, this is the only part that makes sense, and then kind of go from there. There are some things where I say it's, I kind of, if treasure's there, so be it, yay. But that's not always the case, because actually if you have a mummy, you must have a piece of treasure enclosed with it to clear the mummy and the treasure, right? So it worked when it worked, and otherwise you had to kind of force it. And I think those are the things when you're kind of like thrown off of your plan, and this might just be a familiarity thing with the game and just not having 30 years of muscle memory with it. But yeah, it's different. The game itself has, in this version, 2 major modes of play. There's an arcade, which is kind of endless mode with continuous play, increasing level. I guess it's not quite endless, is it? Because it hits, I think, 99, and then you clear it. But there's also a versus mode where you can go head-to-head with another opponent. And then there's mystery mode, which is a mode that was difficult to play in this version because it's a puzzle mode where the player is given a set field with a specific number of drops and a goal. As you progress through this mystery challenge mode, you will rescue more of Patrico. We haven't talked about Patrico, so we'll do that in a minute. But you rescue sort of all these little friends of Patrico as you go through the mystery mode. But the thing with mystery mode is, like, yeah, this is still in Japanese. It's not translated in this S Tribute release. So what you're seeing on the screen is, like, it's telling you to get 2 chains in a row. But all you see is the number 2, right? Because it's not in English. It's difficult to... And you can do a, phone translation. You can do that kind of stuff, but it's not clear. And some of the later ones are really complicated looking kanji that it's difficult to translate those things, even if you can read the language, because of the way it's just pixelated and weird, but also, yeah, I don't know. So that was difficult to get through. I got through a bit of it. The cool thing with the mystery mode is if you're stuck on one, you can always just jump to the next one and just keep trying. But I think, like, I think if this were translated, it would obviously, like, be a little bit easier to understand the goal at hand and practice it and play. But modes like this, for me, even in Tetris, where they have some of these, like, hey, here's a random board that looks like a mess, and here's 2 blocks, clear the whole board. Like, those types of things, for me, they're like fun side challenges, but they never actually teach me how to play the game better in the way that I think they are intended to. And I don't know if that's a fault of mine or of that type of presentation, but it just never works for me. I don't know. I think in the end, like, it probably gets you more used to the fast-paced nature of what those things can look like and, like, what a good cycle can look like. And it did encourage me to do more chains, but it never taught me how to set those chains up myself, right? Like,
yeah,
I never got good at that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the house has been built, but you're given the keys to unlock it. Kind of like. Yeah,
exactly. And that's all. You're never, like, given the blueprints to build the house, which is kind of what I need.
Yeah.
And this game being so obscure, it also has made it difficult to find any sort of, like, really robust tutorials on, like, how to get good at this game, or, like, what are some strategies, what are some techniques. I find, like, even the communities that talk about Cleopatra Fortune in English are talking about how much they love it, and they're bragging about scores, but they're not saying, like, here's how you win. Here's a good, you know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like, we love this game. Check it out. Let's move into visuals a bit. What do you think of the look of the game?
I don't think it's anything special. I mean, it hits its aesthetic.
Yeah.
But, I think the pieces are easily distinguished for the most part, and I can see the board, which is important. But I think the visuals are fine.
I like that it has like these different backgrounds, sort of like I suppose they're Egypt adjacent, or they're meant to like signify that the sides of the board are meant to look like kind of Egyptian wall or whatever. Everything does kind of have this like little treasure feel around the edges of it. It's very shiny, those types of things. And then we have the aforementioned Patrico, who is not Cleopatra, as you might think, but instead she's a girl who likes to cosplay, not only as Cleopatra, but as other random things that she'll dress up as you play. When you get perfects, she kind of like pops up on the screen in different costumes. She also has a whole series of friends that you help save. There's a whole Cleopatra Fortune lore. There is a sequel to this game that has even more, but again, like, it never, I don't know. It definitely goes there, but it doesn't quite go as far as something like Puyo Puyo does with full crazy story modes or anything like that. Yeah. What do you, did Patrico add anything to the game for you?
Me personally, not really. I mean, little mascot character. That's kind of what I got out of it, but yeah. Like, it was satisfying to get the perfects and Shiva will pop up or whatever, but no, after that wasn't not much she was bringing to the equation for me personally.
No, I mean, I like the Eva cheerleader as you go through. I think that it kind of is a nice blend between something like a Tetris and Super Puzzle Fighter. You know what I mean? Like, they're still doing that kind of like chibi look design kind of thing. Yeah. Something I thought about a lot was just the general readability of the game. Obviously, the treasures have very distinct shapes. They change color as you level up and things like that. How readable do you think the game is?
I think it's fine. I think my main problem is the gameplay is fast, so there's not time to like read. But I can see my board. I can kind of figure out where the things are. It's just, when things go bad, you need time to see what's in front of you, and sometimes you can't see where like the box closure needs to happen to clear everything inside of it, because things are just coming quick, very quick.
Yeah, I feel like maybe if the stones had different colors between the square and the rectangle shape, it might make it a little bit easier on the fly to know, like...
that is... I think I'd rather have it all the same color, so that way I can look for like the horizontal kind of line in a way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because if I saw like a design break, that's when I knew there was a piece that's not making the close happen.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. But all in all, I think the puzzle pieces themselves, whether it's stone or treasure, I've never seen another game do something like this. Can you think of another puzzle game that had like this unique of design for its pieces?
The only thing I can think of, I think this does it better, but like Dr. Mario's Pills and Viruses.
Yeah, I think, I didn't even think about that one. Because, it's usually blocks or circles or, in more modern, like, mobile games, there's gems and things like that. Or I mean, in a lot of those now, there's superhero heads and faces and whatever. But yeah, Dr. Mario, I didn't think about. Drugs.
How many Robert Downey Jr. heads can you get in a Marvel game now,
Oh, he's all the characters. He can be anyone you want him to be. Throughout the game, throughout the main play mode, we get one major song. How did that one work for you in longer play sessions, short play sessions?
Let me tell you what, because my play sessions were so small, it never really bothered me.
Yeah. More than never bothered me. I love it. It's been just kind of, we have this every now and then with games we play where, like, in the week leading up, like, it just sort of haunts me, and it has haunted me in the best way. There's something about the way that this music kind of swells at some point when it really, like, and I think it's just a combination of, like, it finally starts to hit its point, but you've also sort of finally slipped into game mode. Like, you're a few levels in and it feels right. The music just feels like an adventure you're having on a snowy day just after the new year where anything is possible. Like, it just all feels, everything feels right about, I don't know. There's a specific sequence of notes, a melody or a combination of such that just all kind of blend. I love the music in this game. Conversely, when you reach a state of panic in the game, when the bricks get too high, the sound, you get a panic song, you get the, like, and it's like,
okay, all right, yeah, okay.
First you get Patrico screaming, then you get that, like, very intense thing. Did it reflect your emotion when you get into those moments? Do you feel like it adds tension, removes it?
I think we're in the same kind of territory as Puzzle Fighter, what I was saying last week, where, like, it kind of, you do kind of get into Sonic drowning panic. But like last week, though, there are times where it hits and you know you're in control and you're like, fuck off. I know what I'm doing. And then you get it to go away in like a block or two. But I don't expect the game to do anything crazy, but, like, you know, sometimes when you are that high, you are very much in control and are playing for your combo, and it's, like, not warranted. If there was a way to, like, determine when panic set in that wasn't the block height, who knows? It's probably impossible to code, but that's the only thing. Sometimes you get it, and it's like, it's not bad yet. Give me a second.
Yeah, settle down. I think, not that I'm a programmer, but I mean,
they all do it, though. They all do it.
No, they do.
Tetris
I think the way to code it, though, I would do it where if you can have an algorithm determine the shortest number of moves for the player to get back to a state of good, then I would trigger it. And if that number of moves exceeds 5 or something, that's when I would say 2. All right, fair enough. Yeah, I'll take 2. What's the final verdict on Cleopatra Fortune? What do you think?
This is what I say in my review. I now have gained some empathy for those reviewing From Software games that aren't up to the task. I think this is a good game. I think it's a clever puzzle game with a lot of depth. I think you have more depth here than in Tetris, than in Puzzle Fighter, and in some other things like Dr. Mario is more like clear the board kind of stuff. But I think this is the one with the most amount of depth, and that's probably why I'm bad at the game. But I think it's a good little package. I like we touched on the lack of translation. You can kind of figure out what you need to do after you screw up once or twice when you think you got it right. If you don't try to translate at all,
and that's just in mystery mode. To be fair,
yes,
everything else in the game you don't need. The only other spot I think that's untranslated is when you start arcade mode, the 1-player versus 2-player, but it's pretty obvious.
Big old 1P and 2P.
Yeah.
So I think some of the in-game wrapped in the Saturn emulator instructions come out with some kanji, but again, you have that emulator visual, like that shell, that manual. Yeah. So like you can see what to do in the game. I think that the puzzle game itself is really good. I just was never good at enough at it to probably accurately judge how good it actually is.
Do you think you'll come back to it to like occasionally play it and see, you know what I mean, kick the tires on it?
I think I would come back. I think I would play other stuff before this. And it's not to this credit. It's just I'm so far away from being even competent at this game where I think I will rather go back and see if I can figure out Puzzle Fighter a little bit more to take out Akuma.
Yeah, I see. Does this stay on the hard drive or does it get uninstalled?
That'll probably stay on the hard drive.
Yeah, it's one that I only just bought on the S Tribute recently. And yeah, it's small enough. Leave it on. I've been having a good time poking at it, playing it. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a very... I think that's probably what compelled me to bring it to this season and put it on the list to begin with. Part of me also knew, like, some of the games I'd selected for the list this year, big, small, whatever, I wanted something that was, like, not that we didn't need to spend a ton of time playing it, but, like, you can jump into this and kind of get it right away. And we need some of those games on the list, I think, just to, like, give ourselves a break in the year to, like, there's not, it's funny, like, I put it on thinking there's not a lot going for it, like, in the sense of, like, I don't need to spend 100 hours with this game. I don't need to really sit and dissect it, but, like, in ways you do more than I expected when I added it to the list. But also, like, it's a puzzle game. It's a bit more approachable. It feels like less of a commitment, even if it is in times more of a commitment to bring to this conversation, at least. It's something I've played on and off for years now, and just having it on a more modern console is definitely a lot more approachable and easy to just jump into whenever. I think it's definitely worth checking out, at least just for the song alone. I kind of like need that song. I need to grab it from somewhere and, I don't know, make it my alarm in the morning. Something just very, very calming about that core gameplay. I don't know what it is.
It never looped for me, but maybe it's because my PlayStation for never long enough.
No, it just kind of just goes, man. I love it. It's a great song. Before we rank it, how would you reimagine this game for a modern online experience?
I don't know, dude. Well, you can if you really want the modern online experience, you could do $10 costume packs for how do you say it? Patorico? Is it
Patrico, sorry.
Patrico.
Think like the last part of Cleopatra, Patra, and then
Patrico. I was looking at a page here, but I think they spelled it wrong or did a different type of spelling.
There's a couple. I've seen like so many weird, but
Patrico. Got it. Okay. Or Patrico. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, $10 costumes for Patrico, and she sits on the side still.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You're not wrong. Yep.
Sorry to give you the easy answer.
Yeah, no. And then they have like a special puzzle piece that if you like, it's a special ring or a special something that like, once you get to a certain level, you'll get one of those that appear. And if you trap that in with 2 mummies, whatever, that unlocks the in-game currency. Or you can buy that in-game currency for 99 cents a piece. And you can trade that for other exclusive hats. Also, yeah, she's not going to have purchasable costumes. It'll be costume elements. Or you can buy the premium costume that is a set, but it has none of the individual elements that you saw. Yeah, that's... I think a modern online, like, head-to-head would be fun. Because I do think that, like, that part of this game would be nice where it's... Because it is a difficult game, and it's difficult for everyone, I feel like having another player to be on the same sort of playing field with would benefit you versus, like, just you against yourself is really, really tough to... go as deep as you probably want to.
I think it's one of those games too that could benefit from like not survive and dump things on each other, but like chase the high score with the 30 blocks they're given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe that's how you kind of build. You playing competitively that way. That's how you build off of like, all right, well I know like I can't really screw up this board, so let's get creative with just 30 drops and see what this how I can maximize my score.
Yeah. Yeah, that would lend itself to some sort of replayability, etc.
Because I think one of the things that's cool and I want to lose from this game is the fact that like the drops are the same.
Yes.
I think you have to mix it up for multiplayer, like weekly or something like that, or it's random in that regard, and you can do like a best 2 out of 3 or something. But I don't want to lose that because I think there's an element to memorizing what's coming and knowing how to play off that.
If you saw this in an arcade or at a convention, would you walk up and play around?
Oof, man. Because my play session might last shorter than my Bomberman session at round 1. That's my only problem. I think it's again a good game. I just don't know how long I'm lasting.
I'll add the caveat that it's on free play. You don't even need to spend money on it. You just walk up and play around.
I'll play a round or two. Yeah,
it's not like Bomberman, currently set to rip you off in your local whatever arcade. What a mess. What a mess of a game that is. Who would you recommend this game to? Final question before we rank it.
I think that person. I think those with the brain of Puyo Puyo are better suited for this game.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think coming to this with a Tetris background is difficult. I think you can get there, but it's such a different experience. Yeah, if you've got the Puyo Puyo Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo brain, you might click with this a bit better. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot, but it's difficult. It's not. I feel like I didn't always learn from my mistakes or learn like how to get better at it. I obviously did get better by playing it more, but I don't know. I think this version as well, like the mystery stuff is sort of like, it's cool, but I didn't get much out of it.
Yeah, I knew I was kind of screwed with this game on like stage 4 I couldn't figure out.
Yeah. But even still, like I had a good time just playing regular arcade mode. It's just like with that, it's kind of limited. Like you're just playing the main mode. You're going to run that forever and ever, which is fun. There's just not a lot to it. A lot more than what's there. It's the core game. There's not a whole lot of variety or mix. There's not a lot of scenery change. Even the scenery that does change, it's very similar. But still, I think I would recommend you check it out if it's available to you. And it is. It's everywhere. I think when it goes on sale, it's like $7 or something, down from 15. It's a steal. I think it's a steal even if you just brag to your friends about this cool, weird game you're playing and they think, what a weird guy you are. What a weird lady you are for playing something that I can't pronounce correctly. But also, it's a cool game. This is the point in the episode where we rank Cleopatra Fortune against everything else we've ever ranked. You can head out to thefreecheese.com/thelist and join us to see where Cleopatra Fortune fits. Oof. This is where science comes in.
Ah, okay. Science. What science?
maybe not science. Sorry. The science of the heart. Outrun is better than this. Is this better than I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream?
It's like the third time I forgot we're doing an audio only podcast.
For now.
How many years have I been doing this? How many dead airs did I do in one episode? So funny enough, I started at Mass Effect 2, then I went down to Snatcher, and I got to Custom Quest 2, and that's where I stopped for the first time.
Okay.
So I think I'm right in that area.
I love that we always kind of end up in the ballpark.
I know. I was gonna let you take the full lead on this too, and then no, we kind of end up the same spot. I think I can coin flip. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream with this. I think there's two totally different games. I would say I Had No Mouth and I Must Scream, while some weird, obtuse mechanical things I think is easier to approach, and I still recommend those types of games. You kind of have a guide on hand, so that way you can't over frustrate yourself. The problem with this game is even if you had a guide, you probably still have a learning curve.
But with this, I think like just hanging out, letting that music wash over you like a cold winter's day, exploring the depths of Cleopatra's tomb with the puzzles and treasures and stones. You know, I'm gonna go above I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, but I don't.
I'll follow your lead.
I don't think we go above Metal Gear Acid. I think Metal Gear Acid stays.
I think that's where. Yeah. Nope. I'm with you.
Nailed it. Congratulations to Cleopatra and Patrick Co. I keep wanting to say Patrick Coon. Cleopatra Fortune.
Patrick Coon.
Coming soon. Yeah, it's good though. I like this game. It also, like, just as much as it felt good in a couple weeks back to slip some stuff, we added Soul Calibur 2 to our top 10. If you've not seen the top 10 at all this season, we've had 2 games that have made their way up there so far, which is, I think, thrilling. We've had a lot that have sort of landed somewhere in the middle. Have we had anything in the bottom this year? I guess yes, we have. If you look at like the bottom 20, we've had a pretty good spread that ended up down there from this season.
But nothing Nightmare.
Bottom. What about it?
It was really in that bottom 20 is really just Nightmare and the Fire Team Raven. It's just 2 though.
Syndicate.
Oh, that was this year. Yeah.
Yep.
I felt like 2 years ago I played that game.
I know. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it's just those 3, which isn't that many. But even like Gravity Rush is lower than I thought it would be.
I think the early in the year was more, I think, disappointments due to expectations.
I think so too. I think you're right.
I don't think we played anything bad. It was just like, I thought this was going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Well, congratulations to Cleopatra Fortune, the new 59. Next week, come back and hang out with us. The puzzles continue with Device 6. And following that, we will see part 2 of our Tetris Effect episode, where we go through Journey Mode. And that'll kind of bring our little puzzle block here to a close. So stay tuned for those. Until then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next time. Bye.